I watched NXT this week. They were at the Brady Music Center in Cincinnati, the same place that AEW held Dynamite in January. I liked the look of that venue a lot, and I enjoyed the show. Some big TNA appearances and the in-ring debut of Ricky Saints. They are really loading up that Roadblock show. Not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. They're going to be at the theater at Madison Square Garden, and they are putting together one hell of a card for that show. By the way, Tubi TV, which is carrying the new WWE Evolve show starting this week. It's going to be airing every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Tubi has now added past seasons of NXT to the service for free. So it's not the complete archive of shows. I was perusing it before. But they do have shows going back as far as the first season on the old network from 2014. From what I saw, there were only, I think, 3 episodes from 2014. But the other years look pretty complete. So it goes all the way back to the Full Sail era if you want to check out that content, because I don't know, it hasn't been an easy thing for people to find a lot of that archived NXT content. I know they just created a Vault channel on YouTube specifically for NXT. I don't think they have everything up there yet. And ever since they went over to the CW, I think the CW only has CW NXT episodes. So this is a way that if you want to go back and check out some of those early NXTs, you can find it on Tubi. Again, it's a free service. Stephanie Vaquer retained her North American Championship over Carmen Petrovic. Carmen's a little rough, but I thought she hung in there fine with Stephanie. And then after the match, Giulia comes out. And she says that Stephanie calls herself the best champion, but she's not. I am. And Stephanie says that she's down for champion against champion. And later in the show, Ava, the GM, made it official that at Roadblock, it is going to be Giulia versus Stephanie Vaquer, not only champion against champion, but it will be title for title. So it's going to be winner take all. And interesting that this comes after it was reported this week that Giulia is pretty banged up right now. And it's not any one specific injury. It's not like she's not that hurt, but she's banged up. So make of that what you will. The fact that both of them are putting their titles on the line, I don't know if she's going to miss any time. This feels like it's being done as a way to get that title off of her, to give her some time off to heal. Because this is a stand and deliver match. And they're doing it on their Roadblock show on TV in a week. You know, there's been nothing said about her taking time off. It's not confirmed that she's going to be taking time off, but that's what it feels like to me. So my guess is Stephanie wins the NXT Championship, and they hold up the North American title in a tournament, and they crown a new champion at Stand and Deliver. And not Jordynne Grace, because if Giulia is taking time off, I think the Stand and Deliver main event would be Stephanie defending against Jordynne Grace. So they're not calling it a unification match. I don't really see a need to unify those two titles, but I also don't think they're going to have her going around defending both belts individually, and we don't need another Roman Reigns situation. So if Giulia wins, then that's probably what they would do, but I don't think Giulia is winning. Stephanie wins, you vacate the lesser of the two titles. We also had the first ever defense of the TNA X Division Championship on NXT television with Moose defending against Lexis King. This was the best Lexis King match that I have ever seen. I missed a few of his matches that he had for the Heritage Cup. So maybe he had some good Heritage Cup matches that trumped this one. But this was easily the best Lexis King match that I've ever seen. And it took Moose to pull it out of him. Someone from a different promotion. But they had a hell of a match here. There was a spot where Moose backdropped him onto the ramp. There was a ramp to the ring. And that did not look like a fun landing for Lexis King, right on his tailbone. But they were in Cincinnati, so, you know, he was over. That's where he's from, and he had the crowd behind him. Of course, Moose wins. And then out comes Oba Femi to confront Moose, and he challenges him to a match at Roadblock for the NXT Championship. So this is only going to be for the NXT Championship, I believe. There's no way that Moose takes the title, but that's another huge match now added to that show. And you watch Moose out there on Tuesday, and he fits right in. You know, he's already over with their audience, and I thought he looked great, and I could easily see him making the transition full-time over to NXT whenever his TNA deal is. He's been there for so long. That's assuming they make a play for him. Right? They've had the chance before to sign him, and they've never expressed interest. His past history may have given them cold feet, but the fact that he's on their television show and Tessa Blanchard is not tells me that that's not going to be an issue for him probably in the future. Jordynne Grace came out for a promo, which by the end turned into a porno. We went from a promo to a porno. She talked about how she knew the only place for her was NXT, and that she is going to be standing across the ring from either Giulia or Stephanie Vaquer soon enough. That brought out Roxanne Perez, the former NXT Women's Champion, who welcomed Jordynne back and said that everybody wants to be a part of the division that I made famous. And she talked about Grace being a big fish in a small pond in the Knockouts division, but she's in Roxanne's world now. And this ended with Grace saying that everybody's got a plan until... And then she punched her in the face. And then two things happened. Grace got her up on her shoulders. Roxanne grabbed the top rope to escape, only she got her leg tangled in the ropes. And she could have easily tore her knee out, but, Jordynne helped free her. And so that happened. But the other thing that happened was Grace had a wardrobe malfunction. And she was exposed on live TV. Right there for all the world to see, at least on the version that I watched. I didn't watch it live on the CW. Maybe on the CW it was edited, but not on the version I watched it wasn't. You could see the panicked look on her face just as they cut over to show Roxanne on the ramp. And they went to go pan back over to Jordynne in the ring, but then the cameraman stopped and he put the camera back on Roxy and never showed Jordynne again after that. I assume she was adjusting herself. But the NXT universe got a little more of Jordynne Grace than they bargained for on Tuesday. Then we had the return of Matt and Jeff Hardy to WWE television for the first time together as a team since 2019. And they returned as the TNA Tag Team Champions. I feel like we are living in the weirdest timeline because this just isn't something that you would have ever seen only a few years ago. I think it's great, but it's still very jarring to see. I mean, between this and what we got last night at the Elimination Chamber, Cody Rhodes out there telling Rock to go fuck himself, Travis Scott doing whatever the hell he was doing in the corner, John Cena turning heel, the Hardy Boys are back, but they're the TNA Tag Team Champions. You got to admit, this is just fucking weird. WrestleVotes tweeted this week that WWE is optimistic that the Hardys will have a main roster run in the coming months. And they even put a new t-shirt out for them on WWE Shop ahead of their match on Tuesday. I wonder how that works with TNA. Like how much of a cut would TNA get for that merch, like if any, relative to WWE, and how much do the Hardys get for that? Like if that t-shirt takes off, I wonder what the split is. I think the Hardys back on WWE TV is inevitable. But again, I wonder how that would work. Like it's one thing to appear on NXT television while you're being paid by TNA. Like I'm sure the Hardys are making good money in TNA. But if they start working main roster matches, then they should be paid main roster money. So like, how does that work? If it's a one-off, it's not a big deal. But if it became a regular occurrence, like how would that work? But the crowd loved seeing the Hardys, and they played the hits against the No Quarter Catch crew, Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights. It was good. It was a good match. Miles Bourne, he got chance of "You're not Randy" because unmistakably he looks and moves around the ring just like Randy Orton. Like right down to the snap power slam that Orton does. Like it's very eerie how much he reminded me of a young Randy Orton, like his mannerisms and everything. And I'm talking Randy Orton back during his bald phase, like the bald menace from the late 2000s. His response to this on social media after the show was great. He said, "Bro, I'm not Randy Orton. He hears voices. I don't hear shit." If you don't know, the man has been partially deaf from birth. I don't think he would have even known what the fans were chanting right away on Tuesday, unless somebody told him. Because I remember he said once early in his career, might have been his first match, he didn't know that the fans were chanting something at him. He had to go ask somebody, like, what are they chanting? And they said, like, dude, they're chanting your name. And, he said the other wrestlers, they have to raise their voices when they're in the ring with him to make sure that he can hear them. But otherwise, it's not been a problem so far as him working in the ring. Hey, maybe he could work a match with John Cena during this heel run on his retirement tour. He'd be the perfect opponent for Miles Bourne. Even the deaf can hear John Cena when he's in that ring. But Bourne ate a twist of fate and a swanton bomb to give the Hardys the win, and that brought Fraxiom into the ring. The NXT Tag Team Champions, they had already come out mid-match. They took a seat on the ramp to observe. So they get in the ring, and they call themselves the greatest tag team in the world today, which honestly, I can't argue that point. I mean, they've had an incredible run that they've been on. But the Hardys, they said, they're the greatest tag team of all time. And Jeff wasn't really interested in all the platitudes. He grabbed the microphone and he challenged them to a match, which brought out Santino Marella, the TNA Director of Authority, to his WWE music. And he got a big reaction. We have all these TNA people on WWE television, but they're mostly ex-WWE guys. So, it's interpromotional, but it doesn't really feel interpromotional. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. And Santino made the match official for Roadblock in New York City with only the Hardys TNA tag team titles on the line because he's the TNA Director of Authority. He has no authority over any of the NXT championships. So that's going to be a TNA tag team title match. And in the Oba Moose match, again, that's only for the NXT title, but here it's the TNA tag team titles. People have asked me if I think we're ever going to see NXT against TNA, like a Worlds Collide show one day. We don't need it. We're already getting it at Roadblock. You want your Worlds Collide, March 11th. There's your Worlds Collide show. And the other key thing on this show was the main event, which was the in-ring debut of Ricky Saints. I wanted to see the entrance. That's really what I wanted to see. I know what he can bring in the ring. I wanted to see the entrance. I wanted to hear the music. It is not as good as his AEW music. I liked his AEW music. It's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. It was Ricky Saints and Javon Evans against Ethan Page and Wesley. And there was a long stretch where the heels got heat on Evans, and eventually he made the hot tag to Ricky. This was a good showcase for Ricky, and he wins it with his Rochambeau finish, which he's keeping the name of that finish at least. And they went off the air with him posing in the middle of the ring. So a fine spotlight for him, his first win. I didn't care for a lot of the other stuff on the show. They had like a Tony D sit down in a restaurant somewhere with the family and all that stuff. If you follow those smaller stories week to week, I mean, that's fine. They're developing their characters. But the stuff that I cared about, I thought it was very good. I enjoyed the show.